Hi, I'm Baldwin Burgess. I'm here with Dr. Dambisa Moyo. How are you, Dambisa?
Fine. How are you today?
It's good. It's good to see you again.
Thank you for hosting me.
That's my pleasure. And we're in a nice place. We're in Monaco at the FundForum International 2013. And we've been speaking about new opportunities and new economies. That was what today was all about. We started today with technology. We also spoke about those frontier markets that are increasingly on the mind of investors. Now, what I'd like to speak to you about is you wrote a book which was quite interesting. It was Dead Aid. You also, before that, you wrote How the West Was Lost. Very inspiring works. What got you to go from a trading floor into writing such a big book about our future, and what essentially attracted you to get more involved in these frontier markets?
So, all very great questions. I think I've just been fascinated by the fact that 90% of the world's population lives in the emerging markets, and we're witnessing this amazing convergence story of how these, hundreds of millions of people, billions of people across the world are converging to higher living standards, and all the sort of messiness about it, the political changes, the economic changes, but very importantly, where the real market opportunities are to invest in these places and really be part of a transformative move of people's livelihoods from indigence and dire poverty towards better living standards. So I'm just fascinated by that as a theoretical concept, but much more as where do you put money to work in this type of opportunity, in this type of environment, and where the opportunities lie.
Yeah, and I think you've been on a remarkable journey as well, because you're originally from Africa, right?
Yes,
I
from
believe
Zambia.
You're from Zambia.
Yes.
Okay. That is a nice place. You're from Lusaka originally.
From Lusaka, yes.
So, and then you go to Oxford, you study in the US as well after that, I believe?
Yeah, I went to Harvard before I went to Oxford, yeah.
And so you're sort of, your journey is now all the way back to where you're supposed to be, I guess,
Absolutely.
right?
Well, my heart has never really left the emerging markets. I think I like to think of myself as definitely an emerging markets girl. Very much at heart about the transformation and the transformative way in which people's lives are becoming much more meaningful in terms of living standards.
Yeah, and I must say, you took on a big topic. I think Dead Aid, and the echoes are still there, right? But I mean, one of the things I've always admired about you is that you were brave enough to actually stand up and tell that story.
Well,
so thanks for doing that.
Well, I'd like to take all the credit. I mean, I must tell you that when I speak to people who are from the emerging markets, they say to me, well, gosh, your book was so obvious. What's the big deal? In retrospect, I had never anticipated that people would care that much. That wasn't why I wrote it. I wrote it out, mainly out of frustration and seeing so many countries moving hundreds of millions of people out of poverty in China and India, in Brazil, across the emerging markets. And here was Africa, to quote Paul Collier, who was my PhD supervisor, shearing off from the rest of the world. I mean, how could this be happening? And so I was really just drawing on my real life experience, which I know a lot of people who opine on these issues have actually, barely set foot into these regions, and yet they're helping to design policy. And I thought it was it was outrageous and required a different perspective.
Okay, and also I'd be curious to know is so right now you've enlarged your theme, taking it to the frontier markets. How have you been? What have you learned on your journey to tell this story to the people? I mean, because it's a whole set of economies. There's a lot of new places. They're very exotic, entirely misunderstood in many cases. What's your experience been like? How do you deliver this message so people know that they should, really see the future there?
So I think only Westerners describe the emerging markets as exotic.
Absolutely.
I think if you're from these countries, there's so many commonalities. I mean, one of the things that I find quite fascinating is that the combination or the sort of the similarities between Mexico, Nigeria, and Indonesia, three large, hundreds of millions of people in population, all oil exporters, are much more similar than maybe Nigeria and Zambia, my own home country, which has got a smaller population. It's a copper exporter. And so I think in a way we have to break down all these strictures and understanding or our approach to understanding what's going on in the emerging world. The fact of the matter is that there are so many commonalities: the need to create sustainable economic growth, the need to ensure that income inequality is improving, the concerns around labor opportunities for people in young populations, concerns around management of debts and deficits, and how you actually parlay capital to generate longer-term economic growth and to continue to fight indigence. And I think those are the sort of things that it doesn't matter whether you're in Peru or you're in Kenya or you're in Thailand. This is what people are grappling with, and I think that's what I'm appealing, hopefully, to people's appreciation of the need for us to solve these problems at their core.
Well, I hope you keep going at it, because we really have to continue until people really get it, right? We're 7 billion people.
Absolutely, and there are real opportunities for investment, not just for money, not just for the sake of making money, but for really transforming the way we live today.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.